Daniel Ricciardo's latest career move has reignited rumors about his Formula One future. Despite his repeated denials, the Aussie remains a power figure in the world of F1, and Ford has recognized that by handing him a brand new role. But the big question is, will this go beyond just presenting the American brand? And even more importantly, could this mark the beginning of a path back to the F1 grid? The situation around Ricciardo and his Formula One entanglement has taken an intriguing twist. He's accepted a role as a Ford ambassador, and given that the American giant will badge Red Bull's engines from 2026 onwards, it doesn't take much imagination to see how this collaboration came about. Ricciardo, an 8-time Grand Prix winner, remains one of the most marketable and beloved figures in F1, exactly what Ford and Red Bull need heading into their new partnership. But while his popularity has never faded, his decline as a full-time driver has been clear. His last F1 race was back in Singapore in 2020. Many fans still dream of seeing him back in the cockpit, but realistically, the chances are slim, though not zero. This Ford role proves the door isn't completely shut. And when Ricciardo himself hints there's more around the corner after signing with Ford, it leaves fans wondering if that more could involve an F1 comeback. Ford's mission is clear. They want to bring road and race operations closer together, combining products, technology, and experiences for customers. And really, who better than Ricciardo to front that project? Still, his fame was forged in F1, which means any move like this immediately sparks the comeback question. The big positive is that Ricciardo is back and directly connected to Red Bull's most important partner. While that doesn't confirm a return to racing, it certainly keeps the possibility alive. Laurent Mekies, Red Bull's new team principal, even welcomed the news by saying, "It's a family feeling to see Daniel joining Ford Racing as part of this adventure. I'm sure everybody will love to see him back in the paddock, and maybe we'll even get that sometimes thanks to Ford." Mekies' words hint at a deeper connection, one that could eventually evolve into something more than ambassadorship. And given Red Bull's current situation with their second seat, it's not impossible to imagine Ricciardo being called upon again. Let's face it, Yuki Tsunoda is under heavy pressure. He sits last among the full-season drivers in the championship standings, only ahead of rookies Jack Doohan and Franco Colapinto. It's not a strong look for a Red Bull-backed driver. Mekies insists Tsunoda still needs time, but many believe the clock has already run out. The problem is, the car is extremely tricky to drive. Slotting in a rookie like Isak Hadjar, Liam Lawson, or even Arvid Lindblad is no guarantee of improvement. That's why the theory of a Ricciardo return makes sense to many. At this stage of his career, Daniel has no championship ambitions left and no desire to take on Verstappen in equal machinery. That may sound depressing, but it's also realistic, and therein lies the problem: motivation. Would Ricciardo really accept a deal just to play second fiddle, focusing on car development rather than victories? It's hard to picture him climbing into the cockpit every weekend with that mindset. But with Ford nudging him back into the F1 orbit, perhaps the American giant could push him closer to that direction. For now though, Ricciardo insists his racing days are over, declaring, "While my racing days are behind me, my love for anything with wheels will always remain high. That's why I'm proud to be a global Ford Racing ambassador, focusing on the Raptor brand and lifestyle." But here's the catch. F1 drivers rarely walk away for good. Fernando Alonso, Kimi Raikkonen, even Sebastian Vettel have wrestled with that itch to race again. The difference lies in the circumstances under which they accept a return. That's Ricciardo's biggest obstacle, not desire, but the terms. Meanwhile, Ford faces its own huge challenge, leading Red Bull back to success. They'll have Verstappen in 2026, but with his long-term future uncertain, the pressure is immense. Ricciardo's primary job will be pushing the Ford Raptor brand, but the possibility of a deeper racing role lingers in the background. Ford's CEO Jim Farley added fuel to the excitement, saying, "We want to build a global juggernaut in off-road enthusiast products." Daniel is unique. He brings passion for off-road to a mainstream audience, and even the drivers were asking me about the Raptor. Clearly, Ford sees Ricciardo as much more than just a poster boy. And Red Bull, in their current fragile state, could use his presence as both a marketing and sporting asset. Still, the reality is tough. Unless Ricciardo undergoes a mental reset about what a return would mean, it's difficult to see him back in the car. His last stints with McLaren and Racing Bulls ended on sour notes, and the competitiveness just hasn't been there in recent years. Since leaving Red Bull, his form dipped significantly, with only occasional flashes of brilliance, like his famous Monza win with McLaren. That's why, as much as fans want it, his comeback remains unlikely. But the slim chance exists, and as long as Ford and Red Bull are connected, the possibility will never disappear completely. Maybe, just maybe, if Red Bull faces a crisis, whether it's Tsunoda's decline or the looming risk of losing Verstappen, the lion in Ricciardo might roar back to life. For now though, he is back in Formula One as a Ford ambassador, not a driver. Whether that evolves into something more depends on how events unfold in the next couple of years. Until then, all we can do is wait, speculate, and dream. So what do you think about Daniel Ricciardo's latest move with Ford? Is he slowly paving the way for a stunning F1 comeback, or is this truly the final chapter of his driving career? But let's take this even further, because Daniel Ricciardo's story isn't just about Ford or an ambassador title, it's about a legacy, unfinished business, and the constant tug-of-war between passion and reality. If history has taught us anything, it's that the never say never rule applies in Formula One more than anywhere else. Fernando Alonso, Kimi Raikkonen, even Nico Hülkenberg, they all stepped away at some point, only to be pulled back into the fire when the right opportunity came knocking. And while Ricciardo insists his racing days are behind him, every move he makes seems to leave the door just slightly ajar. Ford may have hired him to push Raptors and brand lifestyle, but Red Bull's 2026 project could very well need an experienced hand who knows how to steady the ship when things get messy. And let's be honest, things are messy. The second Red Bull seat remains the most cursed spot in Formula One, chewing through drivers at a frightening pace. Yuki Tsunoda is struggling, the young guns aren't guaranteed to deliver under pressure, and Red Bull cannot afford a second weak link when Max Verstappen's future beyond 2026 is already in doubt. That's where Ricciardo's presence becomes fascinating. He doesn't need to chase a world championship anymore, he just needs to provide consistency, marketing power, and a steady presence in a car that desperately needs stability. On paper it makes perfect sense, but does Daniel have the hunger? That's the million-dollar question. Let us know in the comments below, and once you do, make sure to click on the video appearing on your screen right now. Who knows how to steady the ship when things get messy? And let's be honest, things are messy. The second Red Bull seat remains the most cursed spot in Formula One, chewing through drivers at a frightening pace. Yuki Tsunoda is struggling, the young guns aren't guaranteed to deliver under pressure, and Red Bull cannot afford a second weak link when Max Verstappen's future beyond 2026 is already in doubt. That's where Ricciardo's presence becomes fascinating. He doesn't need to chase a world championship anymore, he just needs to provide consistency, marketing power, and a steady presence in a car that desperately needs stability. On paper it makes perfect sense, but does Daniel have the hunger? That's the million-dollar question. Let us know in the comments below, and once you do, make sure to click on the video appearing on your screen right now.